Hurricane Katrina seems destined to be the most costly natural disaster in American history. Last night, we began this broadcast saying Katrina was bad, very bad. Last night, we didn't know the half of it.
5 miles an hour, gusts much higher than that, bringing with her all kinds of problems.
Worst fears realized. Tonight, entire towns have been wiped out around Gulfport, Mississippi. A local mayor says this is our tsunami.
Struck New Orleans. Entire neighborhoods vanished under 20 feet of water.
Over the course of the 20th and 21st century, America has attempted to control nature using technological advancements. America has demonstrated a dangerous arrogance regarding their ability to control nature. Our faith in our ability to conquer nature's most powerful forces has left Americans dangerously vulnerable. One of the worst examples of this strategy backfiring on Americans is Hurricane Katrina, which devastated New Orleans in 2005. Some sources regard Katrina as a human-made disaster rather than a natural disaster.
So Hurricane Katrina was obviously a disaster, but what is misunderstood is that it's really less of an environmental disaster in terms of like the hurricane portion and more of like a man-made disaster.
Katrina was one of the deadliest hurricanes to ever hit the United States. An estimated 1,833 people died as a result of Hurricane Katrina and the flooding that followed. Millions of Americans were left homeless along the Gulf Coast and in New Orleans. Katrina caused around $108 billion in damage. But the worst part of it is that everyone saw it coming. There have been multiple floods of the Mississippi River in the past. For example, the flood of Greenville in 1927. According to the Women's Press, when people walk outside, they could notice the rise in water at the levees. Each time the water looked muddier, swifter, and more threatening, and for some people they gave up hope and knew the levee was sure to break somewhere and do it soon. The reason cities surrounding the Mississippi River have repeatedly flooded is most likely because of America's approach towards fixing the problem.
Most things in America, whether it be like consumer goods or like policies or whatever, are done to fix problems on the short term and have very little understanding of like the long-term scope. And that's, I think, what, needs to be something that is addressed.
In addition, 40 years previously, there was a storm much like Katrina, Hurricane Betsy. After Hurricane Betsy in 1965, federal and state governments proposed a number of flood control projects to deal with the threat of hurricanes and the flooding they might cause in New Orleans. These included a series of control structures, concrete flood walls, and levees. Many plans were made to find new and stronger ways to fight nature, rather than suggesting the idea that nature cannot be controlled. It might have been a safer option to just not live and build in high-risk flood areas. The main reasons people kept rebuilding their homes in these areas is because there are a lot of jobs near the water and people want to live close to where they work. However, it becomes so expensive to live in these areas since, in addition to high homeowners insurance and flood insurance, homeowners also have to pay to rebuild homes and fix any damage caused by the storms. One victim of this cycle says, "My family house has been hit several times, but we just get it fixed. We do not leave. At this point, you just know it will happen, but you pray for the best." Although many plans were made and put into place after Betsy, Katrina still struck and was even more devastating than imagined. Many systems failed that resulted in the horrible flooding of the Mississippi River into New Orleans.
Environmental scientist, and he basically was in charge of investigating, and he's the one that basically came out and was like, the levees didn't break because there was too much water, the levees broke because they were poorly engineered, and basically blamed the government for not doing a better job in building them in the first place. And so it's not like we built them with 1 in 20-year protection knowing they would break, is we built them and thought they were good, but in reality they weren't.
A large part of the flooding that occurred was from the Gulf of the Mississippi River that lies in New Orleans. The National Interest says it also turned out that a series of waterway engineering decisions to try to contain the flow of the Mississippi River and to facilitate river navigation to and from the Gulf of Mexico were badly out of sync with the region's ecosystem. This demonstrated that in the attempts to fix the issues by controlling nature, it made the situation worse.
About it, almost everything we do is to control nature, right? So you dam a river, that's controlling nature, right? So we talk about the Hoover Dam, the Colorado River, or like any dam around here. You are, you're at your house, right? You may build your house, and then all of a sudden you may notice you're getting water in your basement, so you grade your property the other direction for water to run off. We talk about hunting or fishing. Those are things trying to control populations, right? The bear hunt or the deer hunt. So pretty much everything we do, to some degree, is us trying to influence nature, because if we were to step back and look at it, nature always like reclaims the land or things like that.
Now it's easy to say we need a change, but what can we do? Nature is the strongest force on Earth, and we are never going to win the fight against it. Instead of trying to control nature using technological strategies, we suggest that America tries to almost coexist with nature.
In all reality, what really should happen, and is probably the cheaper option, is to have the government start rebuying people's homes and land in flood zones, right? So if you're in the immediate floodplain of the Mississippi or of the Colorado or whatever, in reality, if we're going to start seeing increased flooding, we should be moving people out of that land and not moving people into that land. Restoring natural ecosystems is like the answer to reduce the flooding.
History has shown that the more you push nature, the harder it will push back. We tried to control the Mississippi with levees, but when those failed, it was absolutely catastrophic. We cannot afford to experience another tragedy like Betsy or Katrina. We have spent too much time ignoring the issue at hand, and it's time to form a real strategy that will prevent these dangerous forces from destroying America.